Hello and welcome to the Long COVID Physio podcast. My name is Darren Brown. I'm a physiotherapist and I am living with long COVID. And today is our very first podcast and we have our first guest. So Sue, welcome and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Darren. My name's Suzanne and I'm a therapy tech for the NHS. I work on a respiratory home care ward.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us on our very first long COVID physio podcast. We're both amateurs at this, aren't we? We don't really know what we're doing. So we're just going to keep it loose. We might have a little bit of a structure today, but maybe not. I've got a cup of tea just to make sure that it is kept loose. Yes. Oh, look at you. And then as it's all amateur, I'm sure that my door will go at some point because I am expecting an Amazon delivery today. So who knows what will happen. But so I'm actually really excited that we're doing this together as a first for a couple of reasons. So the first is it's your birthday. Happy birthday. And also your birthday's on New Year's Eve. So what's all that about?
I know, all I know is I ruined my mum's first ever party. She was making sandwiches and then boom, she didn't get to go.
And so we're also both children of Essex, I believe.
Oh, we have got the motherland.
Yeah, the motherland, yeah. So where are you based now, Sue?
I live in the New Forest now in Hampshire.
Oh, lovely. Well, I'm over in London, so not that close, but not that far either.
But we're
So,
both tier 4 now.
say that again?
We're both tier 4 now.
Yes, I know. It's all changed, hasn't it? So who knows what that means in the future, hey? But challenging times indeed. So the other reason I'm also really excited is because we both met actually online, didn't we? We haven't met in person.
Oh, no. I just happened to see your Facebook post. You was commenting on like a feed regarding COVID and how you were doing, and I just happened to like respond to you underneath and start messaging you.
Yeah, so we had a good little chinwag, didn't we?
Yeah,
And then,
we did, yeah.
and then after that, it's kind of really where long COVID physio came from, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
we connected and we just sort of found others like us. So
And it's really nice to have that group as well. So we're all muddling through it together, aren't we?
yeah, shared experiences is so important. So, Sue, I was wondering whether you would be so kind to share your story of living with long COVID in your words, in any way that you want.
Living with long COVID, I suppose, the main words are just pace, rest as well. Um, I started doing like a fatigue diary and a symptom diary to try and see if there was any pattern, but there really isn't. You can sometimes feel yourself going downhill. You can feel the fatigue really intensifying, and then sometimes it's just a boom and it just comes from nowhere. And it can really pull the rug from under your feet, because sometimes you're feeling so good, you've had a really good day. You think, oh, I feel so well. I think, I'm on the home straight now and I'm over it. And all of a sudden, boom, the rug's gone again. You feel fatigued. There's people suffer from various symptoms from it, and it's so individual. But the fatigue's the main thing for me. Yeah. And just, even though you try and pace yourself, sometimes it can seem accumulative, and then sometimes it'll just be boom and it comes from nowhere really. But someone that's always been like a really like work hard, 80s cliche here, but work hard, play hard kind of person. You work hard when you're at work, and then 5 nights a week I'd be swimming after work and running over weekends. Someone that likes to, go up mountains. 2016 I did Killy. The year after.
Did you? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just awesome experience. And sort of now I'm left kind of feeling like the shadow of the person that I once was. Am I ever going to get my fitness stat up there again, that I can carry on doing that kind of thing? And I think that's the thing that I kind of struggle with, like being this kind of unfit kind of person.
Mm.
Yeah, kind of really your self-esteem affects your self-esteem. And where I'm sitting around, the weight's going on. Yeah, so yeah, it's just stuff like that, really. Just coping with it mentally and physically, really. Yeah.
So many really interesting parallels there that I feel like I really relate to there, Sue. You were talking about how fatigue is one of your really present symptoms and how episodic and unpredictable it's been. How long have you been experiencing long COVID? What's your journey with that time frame?
Well, I got my symptoms on the 17th of April,
Mhm.
and I was initially off work for 7 weeks, quite unwell with it. What was deemed as kind of like a mild case because my breathing, my lungs seemed fine. It was quite bizarre. It was a bit of an adventure in itself, really. Kind of wake up and think, "Ooh, what's in store for me today with it?" But yeah, just mine seemed more like organ inflammation, really. I didn't have a cough. Initially, I got up, I happened to have a day off work, and felt really tired and was struggling just to, do the things you kind of do on your day off, bit of washing up and this and that. I just felt really, really zonked. So I sat down on the sofa, fell asleep, woke up later with a temperature, and for the first 3 or 4 days, I wasn't too bad, and then felt a lot worse come day 4 or 5, kind of really nosedived. Found it hard to control the temperature. The upset tummy that all the bog rolls in Tesco's went missing for. I remember thinking, oh, the penny drops. Oh, that's why all the toilet rolls have gone. Yeah, just like just really weird symptoms that I didn't think, happened with COVID, really. Remember ringing my doctor, and he thought I had pancreatitis originally, and he said, "No, I don't think you got COVID. I think you got pancreatitis,"
Mm.
because I had all this like hot feeling and pain on the right hand side. But yeah, just really bizarre, not what I was expecting at all. And it's not until I went and got my test done, which I did, because I work for the NHS. I was offered a test, and I was in shock when they rang me the next day and said, "Well, you're COVID positive." And yeah, I was just really shocked. But at that point, I wasn't too bad. So I thought, well, if this is COVID, I can manage this, because at the time, you can watch too much telly.
Yeah.
And there was all these stories. You saw people on ventilators, and heard stories. So you kind of, COVID was like a really scary thing. And I didn't know anyone who'd had it. I was the first one, who got it, and didn't know anyone else or their experiences. So when they rang me, I was just like in shock, really, but thought, well, if this is all it is for, what I'd experienced for the first few days, I thought, oh, this is fine. I'm, young and fit. I do running, and, just thought I'd be
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah, and then just sort of went downhill a bit after that. And yeah, 16 days of a temperature that was really hard to get down, amongst other stuff. But yeah, it was just bizarre, really. And then sort of like now, it's like the fatigue, really, that
Mm.
I still suffer from.
So you had, God, that makes you like 8 months now. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I'm an 8 monther.
You're an 8 monther. I mean, like, it's such a roller coaster, isn't it? Because it sounds like, first of all, you didn't know you had COVID, and then you've developed symptoms that maybe weren't classical, and
Yeah.
then it's just progressed, and you're now in this position where you've got these long, lingering, persistent symptoms months and months later. And from what you said earlier, it sounds like it's having a really big impact on your life.
Yeah, it is really. Yeah, well, totally, it really is. I know we can't do much socializing at the moment with lockdown, but I'm normally someone who's like really full of energy. You know, People see my posts on Facebook, go, "Oh, you're never at home, are you? Always here, there, and everywhere. Oh, I saw you doing this on Saturday. I saw you all the way over there on Sunday," and now I just sort of go to work and sleep, just really tired all the time.
Yeah. And you talked about pacing and the kind of unpredictable nature of that. And I wondered how that has been impacting your ability to not only work, but also just live your life.
Yeah, well, really, it does seem like I'm off resting at the moment, but I would work and then just sleep, really, and that's it. I'd kind of keep resting so I was well enough to work, and that has progressively got better over like the 8 months since I've had it. But yeah, you feel like you just literally are working and sleeping. And it's been really difficult for me because, being such an active person and, your chores are still there. And I'm quite a house proud person. So, sort of sitting amongst that, a messy home because I haven't got the energy to clean it can make you feel, just a bit like down, really. Yeah.
Real, so many important aspects there around kind of like loss of self and
Yeah, definitely.
identity, and almost like mourning what you used to be able to do, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like a sense of shame that you can't do what you want to do or used
Yeah,
to be able to do.
definitely. Definitely in the workplace,
Mm.
because people can't see that you're feel tired or how you're feeling. You put a bit of makeup on, you do your hair in the morning, you go in and sort of put a brave face on, and because it is so variable, you can have such a good day and then a not good day. People don't know how you feel and they can't see how you feel, and because I'm normally am 100 miles an hour person, it's hard to not be that person. And if you're having a bad day, I'm always like a smiley joker person, and the kind of that is me, that's my identity.
Yeah.
And kind of, not being that, it's kind of weird really as well. So I think it's being honest with your colleagues, telling them how you're feeling, let them know, look, I'm having a bad day, I'm not up to normally what I can do today, so I'm really gonna have to pace myself. Just
Mm.
being honest with them, but really being honest with yourself as well. Self-care, the more you well, that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't look after yourself, you're not any good to anyone anyway.
Oh, that's such an important message. So, like what you said there about the impact of fatigue being that you just work and rest is actually a message I've heard from so many people living with long COVID. But also, it's not even new, really, is it? Because there are many people living with chronic health conditions
Yeah.
that have been living with this for donkey's years, and people saying these messages for years. And you talked about pacing, and obviously that's such an important lesson that we as people living with long COVID has learned from other people living with chronic health conditions, but particularly like ME/CFS. But it's so difficult, isn't it, to, even though we've learnt those lessons from other people and we are still learning and we're really grateful to them, you're still living it and it's still new, and it's so difficult, isn't it, to kind of
Yeah.
do what you said there, which is be kind to yourself and accept it. That acceptance is so difficult.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, being health workers as well, we're great at giving advice. We are terrible at taking advice and living.
Oh, totally. Oh my God. Yes. Do you know what? When you said that you're like a really busy person and everything else, and I was thinking, me too. I used to describe myself as like 100% busy and passionate. And like long COVID has stripped me of all of that because I can't do half the things I want to be able to do. And even though I'm now back to work full time, I've just finished like my phased return. I must admit, I am a little bit anxious, I suppose, about what that looks like and being able to manage my life and my hobbies and the things I'm passionate about beyond that.
Yeah, it's adapting, isn't it, really? Well, I've found a new hobby, which is watercoloring.
Wow. Oh my God. Do you know what? I bought a colouring book.
Next Picasso.
Exactly. We're going to put up all your artwork behind you.
I'll start pulling it behind me with some price tags on, please buy.
We'll have those little coloured stickers on. That one's the red one.
But things like that really good for your mental health as well. And the thing is, the two go hand in hand. You know, you can feel physically rotten, which then affects your mental health, especially when it's been so up and down. And then you get this false sense of, oh, I'm over this now because I've been okay for a month. And then suddenly you have a big fatigue nosedive, and then you're like, oh, I can't believe this again, you know. And I think really finding coping mechanisms and strategies to really look after your mental health at the moment, you know, is so important. You know, we're going through probably like the worst illness we've had in our life. And we're cut off from all those support networks that you'd normally have in place. I mean, my family is still in Essex. I don't know about yours, but that's where my mum is. So, you know, normally if you're not well, oh, mum, come and look after me, come and do me a home cooked meal, you know, and I haven't been able to do that. So it's kind of that, you know, self-soothing and finding those coping mechanisms that are going to really help you in these tough times.
Yeah, really tough. I'm sorry, that's my doorbell going in the background. I'll ignore them. Yeah. They're not stopping. I said that would happen. This is what happens with an amateur podcast, isn't it? You know, it's obviously the doorbell's going to go in the middle of when you're recording this. But so many things there like really resonate with me in such a really strong way about that sense of unpredictability, the ups and downs, the really familiar boom and bust of it all. And you feel like you've got it and you feel like you're on the right track, and then it just comes out of the blue and hits you again, particularly the fatigue. That's what I'm referencing. And it, because of that unpredictable nature, it either makes you push too far too easily or hold back because you're a bit worried about it. And I think I'm in this bit of a limbo with that at the minute, because like, for example, you talked about being a really active person, and like, I'm not exercising and I'm putting on the weight because of it, but that's because I crashed in September because I didn't realize that exercise was making me worse. And I'm a little bit worried to get back into it, because I tried to do it again when I felt like I was getting better, and I had a mini relapse because I went into another episode because of exercise. And it is something that's just puts a lot of uncertainty on it, and that uncertainty and the worry really hits home.
I must admit, I haven't attempted any exercise yet.
Well, when you're living with this type of symptom where you've got the fatigue, and I don't know if you've had this as well, but people are talking about post-exertion malaise, which is where any type of exertion, so that can be physical, cognitive, mental, or emotional, can kind of exacerbate your symptoms and exacerbate quite a few symptoms. Like I know for me, it's the fatigue and the brain fog. Like all of a sudden, I just can't process and think and remember things properly. But
oh, I'll tell you what, I'm past the brain fog stage, thankfully now. Yeah, it's mostly fatigue, really. Yeah, now a couple of niggles. But yeah, I'm over that part, thankfully. So there is light at the end of the tunnel.
absolutely. And to echo that myself, you know, like I'm now 9 months into living with long COVID, and I didn't realize I had it until 6 months in, when I crashed. And it's taken me about 4 months now to recover from that crash. And I'm now at the point where I feel like I'm nearly normal again. I'm back to work full time, I'm not exercising, and I'm still needing to pace my activities in terms of resting. So I'm not normal, Darren. I'm like, I'd say 70 to 80%, Darren, nearly there. So very close there, but I'm on this precipice of, I could push too far too quickly. So I'm just holding back a little bit.
Yeah.
So
how much further do I take this? Do I go back into the exercise or not? One thing I have been doing is which is great for doing some light exercise, but also for mental health as well, is Tai Chi. And Qigong. And there's a gentleman on Facebook, he does it for free, 9 a.m. in the morning and 9 p.m. in the evening. And he's called Michael Tingle. And I've been doing his like gentle exercise every day, just because because of the fatigue, I wasn't really doing any exercise. And I don't know about you, but to help keep me going, sugar cravings were just off the scale. It was, whatever I could get, chocolate, biscuits. I know it was going to happen at Christmas anyway, wasn't it? Let's be fair. And birthday chocolates as well. And I've got a cake sitting behind the laptop ready.
Yeah, that birthday cake. I want to see it at some point.
The kids made it.
Is it not worthy of a podcast on YouTube?
I'm hoping it tastes good.
Yeah, better, right?
So doing the Tai Chi is kind of a start for me. The gentle movement, it's supposed to unblock chi energy. And, if you're a bit hippie like that, like me, I kind of like all that kind of meditation. And it's just one of the things I've found to help me. So meditation, been meditating every day, doing the Tai Chi Qigong as well.
Mm-hmm.
The watercolouring helps with stress, and it's just finding the new activities that makes you feel like you're doing something, and you've got things that you enjoy doing, because the stuff that you would normally do and you can't actually do at the moment. So it's like adapting, really.
It is, and it's rechanneling that energy into something else, isn't it? And it sounds like you've been really, really successful in finding things that are not only good for you, but also not detrimental to your symptoms. Because obviously there are some people that can't do those things because their symptoms are so bad, and there are others that are doing way more than you and I. The variability in people is quite profound. I wanted to ask you our hot topic question. So, like we discussed this before, didn't we? What's the hot topic? And you said not living with fatigue. And I wondered if you could tell us what you mean by that.
Well, I suppose it's the effect that fatigue has on your life, really. Kind of that's what it means to me. The fact that fatigue can be so bad that you're kind of not living. And like we were discussing, it's, finding ways to rechannel those, lack of energy, should I say, or your interests, adapting to new hobbies. I think as well, going back to the self-care as well, it's for me, it's being able to, change yourself as a person. If you've always been a yes person and not liking to let people down, I think that's really hard, actually. You make plans and then you wake up on the day and think, do you know what? I feel really fatigued today. And you could be just going for a 1 hour dog walk with someone, but you don't feel like you're up to it. And it's being honest with yourself and not pushing yourself. And all that, sometimes you do have to let people down, say, look, I'm feeling really fatigued. I'm really sorry. I know it's, we were supposed to be meeting in half an hour. Now I've actually got dressed and put my clothes on, I had a shower. Even doing that some days can make you feel fatigued, can't it? When you're in that really low kind of energy phase. Even that, you can wake up and feel great, and by the time you've had a shower, wash your hair, got dressed, you're like, actually I'm depleted now, I can't meet this person. And it's just, you really have to put yourself first, be honest with your friends and just say, look, I'm really tired, I'm really sorry, I know it's late notice, but I just can't meet you now. And pace your week, don't book in too much for yourself to do, and just rest, really.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means, like the not living fatigue. You kind of feel like you're not living, and it's just finding ways to pace yourself so that you can get back as close as you can to your old self, really.
Yeah, it really resonates, really strong. And I think also in our group, Long COVID Physio, that's also been a bit of a consistent theme throughout, hasn't it? That first of all, the difficulty saying no. I think maybe as rehab professionals, we're all a bit of a active go-getter type A personality, and we're often very much yes people. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I want to do it. Come on, I'll do it again. And it's you can't. You've got to prioritize yourself, and with that, learning, like really learning what planning is, what prioritization is, what pacing is, and then also adding in to the 3 Ps my own personal one, which is precaution.
Yeah.
being precautious of things, and all of that is what you described, isn't it? It's that self-compassion, it's that self-awareness, it's the self-monitoring and self-management because of it.
Yeah, totally. And when you're such a conscientious person as well, you don't want to let your colleagues down. You don't want to be off sick. You don't want to cancel appointments with your friends and let them down. You really have to kind of relearn your own behaviors as well, don't you, really?
Oh, completely. It was a real hard lesson for me learning to say no. Like that's been that I'm 37, so and it's taken me 37 years to learn to say no. And for people that know me, they'll probably realize how really hard that's been. But also this not living with fatigue is also really difficult in terms of the prioritization list, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
when you're having those days where what you can functionally manage might be as much as getting out of bed and getting washed and dressed, even if that's good on a bad day, and then what you want to do might be different, and then how you have to navigate that and navigate what's a priority, what's a must that in my day. And like I know when I was at my worst, I was not prioritizing getting washed and dressed some days so that I could have enough energy to be like, I need to communicate with somebody. I'm going to use that energy to speak to my mum today.
I'm glad I wasn't sitting next to you then.
Don't worry, it wasn't every day, so it wasn't every day. But it's a balance, isn't it, in navigating that? And I think, I mentioned before how much we've learned from other people living with chronic health conditions, and how grateful we are to those people in sharing their knowledge and their skills for us. It's still a journey, no matter how much knowledge you've got. And like, I know for me, like I thought being a rehab professional, I might understand this better, but it's given me a real insight into what it's like living with it and how different that feels.
And I think we can help our patients as well a lot better because we've got that understanding of
Yeah.
how they're feeling and fatigue. And I
Mm.
think that really, help us on our journey as professionals as well.
Yeah, I hope, like this whole long COVID thing can come across a bit negative at times, can't it? And it can all be a bit doom and gloom. But actually, looking at the positive side like that is also just as important as recognizing the challenges, and seeing the opportunities for people that may have gone through this to improve certain aspects of their lives, particularly their personal, but also their professional lives. Like I know now, I will be a much better physio because of my journey that I've been through. And I really hope that I can adopt those skills to support people in their journeys with chronic health conditions, no matter what it may be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, going back to my kind of hippie and meditating side, you know, every experience has something to, something we can learn from it. There's a positive in every experience. And maybe one of ours is, taking better care of ourselves, not being yes people. And, there's definitely a lot to learn from this
Mm.
situation. Yeah. And on what we've been through.
Absolutely. And hopefully our colleagues, our friends, our significant others, our loved ones, our families can also learn from us too, I hope. Just like we've learned from other people. I know that I'm really grateful to my colleagues who have been understanding and accommodating, and also respectful. I think that's something that's been so valuable, where people have actually respected when you say you're having a difficulty, even though you might look absolutely normal and you're still smiling because that's your personality, they respect it, and that's been so important. And I personally want to echo how important that is, so that people know to keep doing it, because it's really important.
Half the battle is just that initial asking for help in the first place. When you're such a capable person and, a go-getter person full of all this energy, it's really alien to actually say, look, I'm not feeling great, please can I have some help, or do you mind if I do some non-clinical for an hour? And that feels alien, and it's half the battle, of being sensible to your own well-being, and asking for that help as well.
Yeah. How did you get to that point then of being able to maybe acknowledge that you needed to recognize the symptoms and accept them, but then also reach out for support? How did that process go for you in your workplace?
Well, it was with great difficulty
Oh,
for
really?
me at first, just being able to ask for help. Well, I did a phase return back to work, and then, which was fine, and I felt fine. And then I went full time, and it was a few weeks in that I then had a bit of a crash. I think, oh, I did a weekend. That was it. I did a weekend, and I could kind of feel myself going downhill. One of the things that I have had is that my temperature will go up, not to full fever, but kind of low grade temperature, and my glands would come up in my neck, and you think, oh, what I can feel I'm going downhill a bit, and so I rang in and said, look, am I okay to work? Because the other thing you worry about as well, when you start having a relapse, it's like, oh, I haven't got COVID again, have I? I don't know if you've ever felt like that. And then you worry, oh, have I picked it up again? So it's kind of, monitoring your temperature, make sure it's not going up and you're not going to be taking it in anywhere else. But so I worked the weekend, and I had like Friday off, and so that I could have the Monday off. So I had a day off either side of the weekend. And then by Sunday night, I crashed. I just felt horrible. And the glands were back up again, temperature, low grade temperature again, and just felt so fatigued. I couldn't even get out of bed, didn't feel hungry, couldn't even be bothered to go downstairs and get a drink of water. I just laid there like staring at the wall. And and then I think I had a couple of days off work, felt better. And then when I got into work, I sat down, like we get in first thing in the morning, it's handover from the nurses, and see what patients we've got today, who's on the ward, who's gone where, and just checking in that handover. And I looked at it, and I remember not being able to make head nor tail of it. Just looking at it, and then like the room just started spinning.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of when my colleague was with me at the time, and I just had to tell them, look, I'm not feeling great at all. I think I've come back too soon. And just told them how I was feeling, really. Yeah, but that was, before that, I was kind of thought I was getting on quite nicely, really. It felt tired after going back to work full time. But then you just come home and you rest, don't you? And you don't think anything of it. You're going to feel tired. Kind of that adapting from going from the part-time, that phase return, you're expecting that tiredness. But you don't know when you've pushed it too much, because you're going to be tired anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder how many other people are experiencing the same thing as you in that sense, where it's you're silently suffering, maybe not fully aware of what's actually going on, but the point of no return is kind of where you crash, and you're left with no option but to actually have and receive help. Because you just can't carry on. So I really don't know how many people are out there that are suffering the same. Like apparently the data is 1 in 10 people with COVID are developing long COVID. But I wonder how accurate that may even be, because there's so many colleagues I know that don't think they've got long COVID, yet they describe all similar symptoms to like what you've had and others describe.
Yeah, and acceptance as well, isn't it? And I think just after the acute phase, you don't know what way it's going to go, do you?
No.
And you don't know what to expect from your recovery, really. It's so different for everyone. Some people have it for a week, and they're back to work the week after and feel really minor symptoms. Then to the people have got really bad symptoms, and you just don't know what way it's going to go. And you're going to feel tired when you go back after having it, but you just don't know the intensity of it or how long it's going to last, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's where kind of understanding how we describe things is important as well, because I think sometimes a lot of people don't quite understand it when we describe like fatigue, this kind of overwhelming sense of someone's turned the lights off. And it's different to I've just done a day at work and I'm feeling a bit knackered or I'm tired, isn't it? It's someone switched you off
Yeah,
kind of fatigue.
yeah, like a complete dead battery, isn't it? You've just
Yeah.
got nothing left to give.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Sue, I think we've discussed so many important things here in our very first long COVID physio podcast. So like, we've gone through like symptoms, we've gone through your journey, we've talked about acceptance, reaching out for help, pacing, learning from other people, learning ourselves, sharing our experiences. Like, is there anything that you would like for people that may be listening to this podcast to maybe take home as a key message from this?
Oh, I think at times you can really feel like you're on your own and you're, the only one that's suffering with this and no one understands you. But I think there are groups out there like ours, long COVID physio group on Facebook. If you are suffering from long COVID, then join us. We're all muddling along together. But I think also, don't forget about your mental health as well. That's so important. And your mental health goes along with your physical health. If you do feel like it's affecting you mentally, reach out to someone, give your doctor a call, let them know that you're worried about your mental health. There's apps like Headspace, there's Calm, there's Insight Timer for meditation. If you're really having a real mental health crisis, there's the Samaritans, and they're on number 116123.
Oh, look at you, that's amazing.
NHS, there's also a lot of mental health for them as well. They've got talking therapies.
Yeah.
And the NHS is currently advertising Every Mind Matters, and that's got really good resources on there for mental health.
Wow, what a comprehensive summary of so many important things. Like what we can do, Sue, is maybe like at the bottom of this video on YouTube, we'll put all those links in the description, because actually they're such important resources. And like you say, there are groups out there. So our group is obviously for physiotherapists and support workers globally living with long COVID, but there's so many other groups and lots of groups in different settings, in countries. There's the original groups like Body Politic group and the long COVID group, long COVID support and long COVID SOS, and there's all these other ones as well around the country. And so hopefully it's an important message that people know they don't need to suffer in silence and be isolated in this. And thank you so much for sharing all those important resources and for also emphasizing the link between mind and body and how we've got to look after both. So I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me today on our very first long COVID physio podcast, and happy birthday, and also happy New Year.
Thanks, Darren. And I'll tell you what, it's so fab to actually talk to you in person rather than, just chatting to each other on Facebook. So that's fab. Really nice to chat to you today.
I know, we've actually got to meet properly. So there we go. Long COVID brings us together. Okay.
Oh, enjoy the rest of